Here we go. So listen, quick tip, start a resistance training program today, right now, or tomorrow. But no, like start it right away. I thought this was common knowledge, as I said before. I thought this was, well known already, but I'm seeing more and more information kind of come out that says, oh, you can. I mean, you could obviously be fine without a resistance training program, but I don't understand in my mind how that's not the go-to for like all of the goals, right? Like if you wanted to lose weight, you would start a resistance training program, right? But for some reason, the go-to is I'm just going to start jogging, and that for losing weight, no, that doesn't work, right? Jog because you want better heart health. Jog because you enjoy it, but don't jog to lose weight. That's not the most effective way. Let's just put it that way, right? And it's also not the most effective way to keep it off in terms of the weight. So there's just like, even if you're like health conscious, especially if you're health conscious, if you're really, really concerned about like your health and well-being, start a resistance training program. And even if you're not, and you just want a decent quality of life, start a resistance training program, right? It's the basis, it's the foundation for so many other things. So it kind of baffles me a little bit that there aren't more people who will resort to upfront a resistance training program. And there's reasons for that. I kind of understand some of them, right? Where weights and things like that can seem to be, intimidating. I understand that. But there's also a little bit of like, so then because they seem to be intimidating, you're going to stay far and away from it, not going to challenge yourself and just hit the trail running. So, and then again, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with running. What I'm saying is, in order to reach any of your health and wellness goals, the base should be some form of resistance training. So what is resistance training here? So what do I mean by resistance training, right? So put simply, I mean a form of exercise in which the participant, the person, I was going to say a client, but a form of exercise where the participant contracts their muscles against an external object, right? And the two modes of force, or the two main forces really that you work with when you deal with resistance training, gravity and friction. And a lot of the exercises contain both. But that those are the so and maybe I didn't put that as simply as I could have, but essentially you're contracting your muscles in order to lift an object or to move an object, okay? And to keep it pretty simple, I tend to separate the groups, or resistance training as a whole, I tend to separate it out into 4 distinct groups. And that's simply by like equipment type, right? So you have all the bells, right? Dumbbells, barbells, kettlebells. So that style of training where typically you would lead to heavier weights. You also have machine training, and this covers a lot of different avenues. So like I would put a sled under a machine training, like especially like something like a tank, where it gives you a little bit of gravity-based stuff, but a lot of friction-based stuff. So I would also then separate out a group of body weight training, because that's, you're basically going against gravity in most of those cases. For instance, pull-ups, right? You're pulling up, resistance, gravity's pulling you down, and you're pulling up, right? So you have the body weight training, and then I'll probably say bands. Bands would probably be the last group. So you have all the bells, you have machines, you have bands, and you have body weight. And those are the 4 categories I typically separate out resistance training. So what are the benefits to resistance training? First and foremost, and this is number one here, especially for me on my list, right? it increases lean muscle mass, also increasing muscular strength. Okay. There are so many things that come from just those two. All right. So let's stick with the increasing lean muscle mass. If you increase your lean muscle mass, first and foremost, you're increasing your metabolism, basically, but you're making your metabolism work more efficiently and work better, especially if you're talking about fat loss, not just simple weight loss, right? And this is where what I alluded to earlier, where it's just like, okay, jogging, that's great, that's all fine and dandy, but you're more likely to lose a good deal of lean muscle tissue, which is what makes jogging, in terms of using running for weight loss or using cardio for weight loss, not the most effective option. It might be effective short term up front, but it's not the most effective long term, because while you're losing fat, you're also losing lean muscle tissue. And your lean muscle tissue is what burns the fat, right? You need that. Muscle is super important. And the thing about it is, I guess the sucky part about it is, as you get older, you're not necessarily just gifted more of it, right? So it becomes a little bit more difficult to maintain, but it's absolutely well within a realm of our ability to maintain lean muscle mass as we age, right? But it's important to do so, right? Because, so like I said, increasing lean muscle tissue improves metabolic health. It also improves joint stability, right? So because we're tightening up all the muscles and the tendons around all of our joints, it's less likely for us to have any major joint injury or joint pain. Now, that's also kind of like on a sliding scale a little bit, right? That's not to say that you won't have any pain at all whatsoever, but it's just your ability to deal with the pain will probably be a little bit better. And also, that lean muscle tissue, the increase in lean muscle tissue is also better for your heart. It's I already said it's better metabolically. It lowers your chances of basically all case mortality, especially again as you age. And this is just, it's still a crazy stat to me, but it's just like one of the leading causes of death when it comes to our aging population is like falls and stuff like that. And I'm just like, oh, that's still, I mean, it was definitely that way 5 years ago. I'm still kind of shocked to see that. I guess I'm just, this whole thing is just, I'm a little shocked or a little, put aback, right? Because it's just like, there's so much literature out there on the benefits of resistance training. There's so much literature, so many studies. There's a lot of information out there that kind of proves itself, right? So you have one study that says one thing, and then you have another study that pretty much confirms that thing and then confirms something else. And it's just a lot of information out there. And I just don't like, if you're getting up there in years, I urge you to start a resistance training program. I mean, maybe this is a public service announcement here. Like if you're hitting past your 50s and you're starting to get 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, I don't care how old you are. Once you pass a certain point, right, we're just like, some people would say it's like, hey, 45, it all starts going downhill. Well, I don't want to think about that yet. But once you hit that point, like, you absolutely should make a priority your a resistance training program of some sort. So let me get back into the benefits, right? So while you increase lean muscle tissue, you also increase muscular strength, which is really good for posture, really good for moving better, again, good for your joint stability. All of that stuff really comes along with a decent resistance training program, right? So it's like, you not only, look better, right? Look better is still a thing, right? But you also feel better, like, and you're actually internally, better. There's better blood markers, right? At that point, for people who do resistance training, compared to people who do not, right? So, but then you also move better, right? So resistance training leads to a better quality of life. And there's all these other additional benefits of resistance training, like better, it has cognitive effects. So it has effects on your brain. It makes you feel good because your body releases endorphins. Again, I keep going back to these endorphins, but exercise makes you release endorphins. It makes you feel good. You might not feel great during, but in general, you have this general sense of well-being overall. What else does it do? It does so many different things. It improves athletic performance. It helps your body operate better and more efficiently. So there are any reasons. Like I cannot think of any reason why one wouldn't do resistance training. Like even people who are in some way handicapped, they should still do resistance training as well. Like everybody, I don't care who you are, I don't care where you come from, you should be resistance training in some way, shape, or form. I mean, the list goes on. It improves blood glucose levels. It improves your cognitive abilities. It improves overall. Well, so it decreases inflammation, and it improves your chances or decreases the chances of getting chronic disease because of said inflammation or because of other means, right? Like there are so many reasons. I can go on all day with this. But the point is, there are numerous benefits to starting a resistance training program or to continuing on with a resistance training program. Now, what does one look like? Because like a resistance training program, in a lot of cases, to a lot of people, it's just, hey, look, I got to go out there and start lifting some weights. And that can be a part of it. But there are body weight resistance programs that you could jump into. I mean, I've seen they're plastered all over the place. They're like 10-minute body weight only workout. Yeah, try it. Right? Or you could do things like Pilates, which is really, I love Pilates. It's just one of those things where it's just really good, because what another benefit that I didn't mention to resistance training, it actually improves your flexibility. And none of them do it better than Pilates does. Because it also improves flexibility, but it improves your strength in those, somewhat hypermobile positions, right? Even things like bar. Bar is really good. Now, granted, I've done maybe 2 bar classes before, and you talk about. You talk about somebody sweating I was sweating so much I was almost embarrassed, because I was just like, yo, ain't no way I'm sitting in a little bar attached to the wall and you got me doing all these ballerina poses and everything like that, and I'm sweating my behind off like this. But it's also like, it's just a really good. It does strengthen you up. It does strengthen you up, and it does help in the sense that that's a really decent. You're just using your body for the most part, but you're using gravity and you're going against gravity. So it's like one of the better body weight resistance training exercises, right? But you can also go, like I said, you can go to all the bells, right? And you could do, dumbbells, kettlebells, barbells. That's where I pretty much make my home, right? But there's also various machines. Because that's where I would put a lot of the isometric machines in there too, right? The isometric and the isokinetic machines, those will be thrown in that group too, right? But then you also have like the simple machines, like a lat pull down machine or something like that, where you're, cable machines and plate loaded machines. There are a whole bunch of different options. But if you wanted to start somewhere, start off with body weight. And honestly, for a lot of people, that's sufficient. That'll be sufficient for a while. And if you can't start with body weight, because there's a group of people who can't start with body weight, start with chair. Right? You're sitting down doing chair exercises. But something, you have to do something here, okay? Because I mean, if you're really, like I said, I separated out to two groups here. If you're into your health and your wellness, it's basically the key to unlock almost everything. So I almost want to, and I don't like these broad stroking statements or anything like that, but I find it very difficult to believe that one is very interested in their own health and wellness and they're not on a resistance training program of some sort, right? And it doesn't always. I also think that's part of the kind of the wall that a lot of people put up a little bit, because they assume that a resistance training program is only with the bells, right? It's only with the weights and only what you see in the gyms. But no, like it's broad ranging, right? And for instance, when we were all locked in the house with COVID, what's the first thing that sold out? Resistance bands, right? And I kind of say, rightfully so, because you can get some decent workouts with resistance bands as well. So there are a number of different avenues you could go to get your resistance training on. And it doesn't just have to be some heavy dumbbells or heavy barbells or, doing like powerlifting. That is not the only route. There are a number of different routes. And I want you to keep that in mind, because I'm absolutely urging you to start a resistance training program. It's almost like this is more than a quick tip. This is like a mandate. Like, go start a resistance training program today. This is what leads to longevity for you. This is what leads to better health outcomes for you, especially if you are a person who is into your health and your wellness. You're into health and wellness. There is no way that you should have everything else set aside and you don't have a resistance training program set aside for yourself. Okay? All right. That was a quick tip. Let's keep it pushing. So if you like this segment, here's another one for you. Click over here. And if you want the entire podcast, go this way. Click on that one right there. And once again, I appreciate you. All right, you take it easy.